Welcome back, everybody, to Hxro Labs Live with your host, RT at RandomTask555 on Twitter. I was just tweeting out the old time tweet. Welcome back. How's my background? Oh, a knife. It's a butter knife. Don't worry. It's from lunch. Other than that, looking good. Pat Elm, welcome to the chat. You got first post. Says looking forward to the stream. Me too, man. Me too. There's a lot going on, particularly for Ethereum. Ethereum had a really nice move overnight. I'm not sure I'm buying it. This whole breakout thing, and that may be because I have bear goggles on, and that may be something to do with more my personal life, where I'm like really hoping we have summer doldrums, because as you guys know, I got the twins. They're coming home soon from the hospital after being born a little early. They're healthy, they're good, so thank you for your concern. I've got some really nice DMs, people, shout outs. Anyways, so maybe I got bear goggles on, but I mean, I definitely have bear goggles on, but it's like, we'll see how that plays out. First off, I don't know a ton about econ, but I don't really see a positive outcome to this debt ceiling issue. On the one side, I was thinking if they don't raise the debt ceiling, they'll default. There's a lot of stuff that's like, well, obviously that would cause pretty much a pretty chaotic bit of price action in the stock market, which ultimately would be a great excuse for crypto to roll over and chill, which high time frame, and technically speaking, I think it needs to. I don't know about needs to, but like it would be healthy, normal to have this year in the cycle be like a really nice rally out of the bear market low January, and then just kind of like a cool off to some extent, which we've already had. So I guess the question is the cool off we've seen thus far sufficient, or do we need to go and puke out and get a proper shakeout across the board? Let the whales fill up the bags of the lows. Let any kind of public interest that came in just puke out and regret their life choices, and then work our way up into the end of the year, and perhaps find a little energy through January next year, which is typically a really good buying window. September, July, January are probably my favorite buying windows. So that remains to be seen. Now, what the topic of today's show overall was how to trade the chop. I've been trading the chop, so I thought I should talk about it because there's a lot of money to be made in this shitty market. The problem is most people, myself included in previous years, you're really just looking for the breakout, right? Things get dumpy, you start saying, hey, it's time to short. And then it goes back up. And it's like, oh man, this market. And then it starts to break out like it did last night. And then you want to go long. And then over the next week, it comes back down. And you say, oh man, this market, it's so hard to trade. It doesn't have to be hard to trade if you have setups that can be applied to a range, to chop, things like that. And what better tool to use than the Fibonacci retracement tool that I use to find locations within the chop. So actually, we'll go look over now. I am out of my set of shorts that I had. I'll explain why. 3 out of 4 were not technically invalidated. But ETH looked so strong last night, and the blast took, such strength that I was looking at it and I was like, damn, I don't know. Like I was still in profit on things like my LDO short and my FXS short. And I thought at the very least, I'm probably coming back up to entry here. So I figured I'll capture that P&L, offset some of the loss I took on ETH. I think net positive for ETH through this, because, and this would be more apparent if you guys were in the Discord, but like there's a couple really nice trades here. In particular, this one to start it off, we had sort of like an M fail on ETH. So the short entries came in here. We were very euphoric last week, midday, when this was dumping. So I closed half, set the rest to break even. I ended up moving it higher because I saw, oh, break even's coming in. So stayed short through this, added a little bit. And then on Sunday night in the Discord, I was super bearphoria, and I recognized that after looking into the chat and going, damn, I just like wall posted a whole bunch of really bearish targets. Like I must just have lost my marbles. And so I literally posted, and I was like, due to my recognition of this excessive bearphoric, feeling I'm having right now, I closed 50% of my ETH and Bitcoin short, basically closed half of all my positions there. And then woke up to this and was like, oh, so that helped me offset the ultimate stop out. And then I took one extra shot sometime last night. I think on the 1 minute, we kind of like swept this and then closed below and then retested it and started to move down. And I was like, okay, I'll take that short. And before I even got to bed, that got stopped out. So I gave back like some of the profit, but came out net profit trading this range to the short side. Now, at first, I was kind of frustrated about that. I was like, that sucks. But my trade partner, my buddy Smeety Boop, who you guys have seen on the stream before, he pointed out correctly. He said, "Look, our thesis was that this is a consolidation before further breakdown, and we were wrong. We still managed to make it out with some profit, which is pretty impressive. Like to be wrong about your broader trade setup, your trade thesis for a period of time, and then still come out not only without a loss, but with small profit. I don't even remember exactly offhand what it is, a few thousand. Um, yeah, in that lens, it made it feel not so bad. Now let's consider what's really going on in the market right now, because Ethereum, and I have not done a broad market scan. Like I know one coin I know is having quite a run is ARPA. So like there is a lot of this kind of shit going on in the market. Coins I'm not watching, and so I have to be, aware of that there are, there's a lot of, I know Brian over at TRI is waiting on some take profits after buying this breakout down here, coming into his take profit levels on ARPA. So there is like a bull going on in certain parts of the market. I've been really bear goggly and focusing on, which is rare for me, as you guys know. So, whatever that means, like RT starting to short, that's the bottom. Who knows? But once I saw this set up on Frax, it was hard to unsee it. And I was already thinking short just because of this like quick move up. I thought, even if this thing's a bull, there's a pretty good chance it does something like this, like kind of test those lows. And so that was initially my view. And then somebody pointed out that it actually kind of dropped back into this accumulation range, which looks a little sloppy the way it's drawn because it's drawn off of weekly candle bodies. So if we zoom in here, you can see like, okay, we'll pick this range high, pick that range low. Here's the midpoint EQ. Pretty sweet drop in, right? Test and close right above, and then just donk right into the range EQ, donk range highs. So entire isolation from the rest of the market, this just to me looked like a good short setup. Now, if you guys have been following me on Twitter, this is one of the few ones that I actually tweeted about, and it got swept. So I can take credit for a good amount of this wick. That was my stop loss getting triggered. It's kind of low liquidity, so it sucks. But waking up to that, so like, getting short, took a little bit off here, and then the rest of it getting blasted. And then I actually just kind of woke up and reshorted. I don't know exactly where, but it was, somewhere in this ballpark, because I just thought with that sweep and rejection, it invalidated the technical setup I had like against this high. In retrospect, could have been a little looser, but it didn't really invalidate the idea. In fact, it's kind of how you would want to trade the range, right? Say like, okay, sweep the highs, dip back in, and then thinking short against this. I have since closed it, so I'm not short in this one, which makes me uncomfortable because my setup is technically still live. So I'll be looking at this up against these range highs, local reload zones, if things do start to perk up a little bit here this week. And so the question is, at what point, because this is important, I don't want to be wrong in sort of where I think the next big move comes, and then be like stuck offside. And then like, let me give you an example. So I was talking this morning. So first of all, Bitcoin has not even left this range. It was very exclusive to ETH and a handful of alts that are just in their own little world having a good time. Bitcoin has very much just stayed in this local range. So I am currently short from here. I had closed it last night somewhere through this candle. It was still in a small profit. ETH had got stopped out. I said, I'm going to capture the profits I can while I can in case this whole shit gets blasted. And then I noticed today that it hadn't really left its range. And so, zooming in, I just show you on my Bybit, like you can see up against this high, I just thought, I'd like to have some hedge in place because nothing's really changed high time frame for me based on that price action. And I think a lot of that last night can be attributed to ETH BTC move up. And so the question is, this is not, there we go. Question then I guess becomes, is this the start of a big breakout, or is this kind of the end of the move that we got starting down here as we come into the short reload zone? At one point today, we had kind of tagged that and we were closed, or not closed, but trading back below these highs. So, we'll see. I think a lot of that move in particular was accelerated by the ETH BTC stuff. So unfortunately, one of the major shorts I had on, or the bigger one, was on Ethereum, which did the most damage to the upside. Go figure. But manage risk, and as I explained earlier, actually net profit, given that I was taking profits against these range lows. So how to trade the chop? Well, here's your chop. You've got your high, you've got your low, and then these short reload zone and the reload zone, they offer really great opportunities to just take risks against levels, right? So it's not about saying like, hey, when Bitcoin comes up here, I think it's going to go down. It's more, I mean, I do think it will, but it's more just that when I'm getting entries here to the downside, my invalidations are tight. When I'm getting entries here to the upside, my invalidations are tight. These were not as good. This would be like pretty wide window. But if you're looking for a midterm swing, like if I think, which by the way is totally possible, but if I think like I want to be long Bitcoin, and longing today after the strong move up is suicide. That's literally where you end up in that case where you just hate the market because you're like, oh, it's just chop, 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 chop. But if on those big dump days I start coming in and buying against, obviously in retrospect, easy to say the low, but I'm just basically saying like anything above this, I want to buy the closer it gets to that. And that becomes my invalidation. Because any kind of buys like that or longs or whatever, you're really looking for like a midterm upswing where then you can get real greasy either to the most recent, significant high. And you say, I think from this, we're going to end up trading up to that. And that would be pretty friggin' normal. Like that would be like that, like, oh, this market's so difficult to trade. But using these kinds of levels, I mean, we saw it through here, right? Where you draw your short reload zone, price came right back up into it. And then you draw your reload zone off of that. Price came right back down into it, right back down into it, right back up into it, right back down into it, right? And so trading the chop, I use these, I call it fib pong consolidation, sort of bing bong bing bing off of these Fibonacci levels. So that's how I'm trading the chop. Now up here, as you guys know from previous streams, I did not trade it, even though it was like the most beautiful series of fib pong on a 4-hour that I've seen in a long time. My twin boys were born. I was actually in the hospital right through this. So I did take a small long because I'm a DJ and I was on my phone and we were just kind of in the waiting area. But I closed it pretty quickly and I just wasn't all that focused through that on trading. So it's unfortunate, but again, easy to see when you look back. Now on the higher time frames, I'm just seasonally, I'm not excited. China's starting to catch a little bit of energy right now, which is obviously like a soft point for me because I was super bullish on that idea early, as is often the case. As you can see up here, right? This was my Neo setup. I even said on the stream where I talked about it, I said, this is like a part one setup. It's not the best setup. The better setup comes down in the reload zone. And that setup has come in, and now we're seeing lots of buy volume bubbling up right off a higher low. So like I'm bracing for the reality that is potentially like a China coin wide kind of sector rally here that I'm not really on board with. If I was really hungry, paying attention, high time frame 702s is a great spot to just be building positions, bounce up off them. Higher low is even better. Now you have a really tight frame of risk. And so for the bulls to step in here on something like Neo, which is very much a dinosaur coin, it's not your hottest, name out of China right now. ONT being sort of its like co-conspirator as far as like OG China coins. Let's see. Actually, it might be on here. Group one. Yeah. Whoops. So we've got the high time frame reload zones that really, when I get in here and I get all spicy about my ideas, the thing that caught me off guard with China coins, honestly, and I kind of journaled about this, is once I got the idea in my head and I was like, oh man, this is going to be the narrative through the spring rally. This is where ONT was, and Neo had a very similar setup where it was just consolidating. And then one weekend after I was already long a handful of China names, these two just exploded, and I was like, it's happening. And so I didn't chase this one. In fact, I did load up back down here and got stopped. But point is, like, being loaded up on a bunch of those names and then seeing two of the more like, I don't know, like flagship China coins, like classic OG names, pop 30% on a Friday or Saturday, it just made me feel like, okay, I'm in these good positions now and it is going to happen. and then look left, you get stopped out, you move on with your life, you do other things, and then you look back and like the perfect kind of reload zone type W's came in. And so we'll see, we'll see how long these run. China has now stated, or at least Hong Kong has stated, the legalization stuff goes live on June 1st. It's going to be super tight. There's going to be a lot of licensing, people that kind of like try to get around all that stuff. It's like jail time and fines. I mean, it's not going to be this, what do you call it? Wild West open market free for all. But it's coming. It's a lot of new users. It's a lot of new potential buyers. And more than that, it's like a narrative hype train that could absolutely catch fire. Now, is it sell the news June 1st? Depends on the price action into that event. Or does, access to these names actually, provide a midterm rally? I don't know. I'm still pretty soft on this market for the next little bit. And I could be wrong about that. I think I'm not too worried. So like, here's a good way to think about it. And this is what kind of helped me like just chill out a little bit and not worry if I'm wrong. So if I'm in about 45 to 60% cash, which I am, and I am wrong, right? The fear is that it's going to be like, whoa. And then you're like, where do you buy if you want to be back on the train? And then you just missed the biggest part of the move for the month or whatever. But more likely is, or at least as a trigger for me to start getting bullish on this market again, there's always going to be something to trade. I'm going to keep trading. There are some nice long setups on names that I'll share with you in a little bit, low caps, new caps. But high time frame, like Bitcoin being the king, whatever, it's really just got to move through this downtrend line. And that's something that Brian pointed out on the show a few weeks ago on the pit. Like, we are in a downtrend. We had a high, we had a lower high, we broke it, and then made a lower low. So we are technically trending down on the daily. And so that forms off of that high and lower high, you get the downtrend line, which should guide this move. And at some point in the future, inevitably, Bitcoin will move through this line. And on the other side of that line, inevitably, at some point, I would imagine, I guess not inevitably, but I would imagine at some point it will break out and form a W, confirm an uptrend, but on the other side of this trend line. Now, when that time comes, I will have cash and I will be able to position it. Now, what happens between now and then? Is there some crazy alt season? Do China coins run? Does ETH make new highs? Like, there's risks in sitting out and thinking too much just about Bitcoin. So I got to pay attention to the market and stay analyzed. But as far as like high time frame, what would it take for me to be like, we're back? It would be definitely a lot more than what we got today. I think that could be a nice midterm breakup where we come in and test this kind of level. And I think if we apply this to Ethereum, it looks very different. So Ethereum is actually already kind of teasing that trend line. So Ethereum's already up there testing that level. So also consider this. I have to be honest with myself. I am more bullish on Ethereum going forward than I am Bitcoin. Yeah, hyper Bitcoinization, bank failures. They had a run this year. Where is it? Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance did come up to test this high time frame resistance. We'll go to the weekly. Right. So Bitcoin dominance had a really nice run this year. It took over for a little while. It's at a major resistance. Does it break higher? Does this mark the highs? I'm going to go with the more likely scenario being that this marks the general like local high for Bitcoin dominance, and it can come down. And in that lens, you then have to look back at ETH BTC and think, oh, what's ETH BTC doing? Pre-Shanghai, we had the sweep of this level, and it just sent right after that. Shanghai came in, it dumped back down, made a higher low. And then if we zoom in, I don't trade this chart, by the way, but it's a nice way to like get a flavor for the market. If you zoom in, we had some really nice 4-hour bull divs forming here as it slid into, you can't see it on here actually. What was the local reload zone? So, from like, oh, we're moving up, let's get a higher low. Here is the higher low, bullish divergence, www.breakout.retest. And now just trending higher and starting to like speed up. You can see the bulls picking up here. So I cannot rule out, first of all, that we're going to move higher in general across the market, but also that ETH is going to lead. I think ETH is going to lead. It should lead. If you think about it, it should reprice against Bitcoin at some point. After the ultrasound money board came up and we had the merge, and you think about the impact that should have on supply and all that stuff, and then demand just basically has to stay flat, and it should reprice somewhere to the tune of, I think it was like 8 halvenings, basically, was the equivalent of that merge. So we haven't seen that yet. And I was talking about this on the War Room podcast on Twitter on Friday. Like, look at ETH BTC for 2 years. So the merge happens. It's super hyped, and it should be. It was a pretty big deal. And there it was. And we've done nothing but kind of drip back down into local reload zone, coming in and touching this 618 a few times. Could it have gone lower? Yes, it still might. I was thinking at the time that like this level seemed like a really great place to think long, or at least like, pivot if I have a lot of Bitcoin and would rather have ETH or something. But thus far, it has done nothing but make lower highs. And I don't think that's a reason to think like, oh, well, that's always going to be the case. I just think that's odd. It's odd to me that this thing has not repriced versus Bitcoin. I think that that's inevitable. It's just basic supply and demand. The market valued it at such a level compared to Bitcoin. Bitcoin fundamentally didn't change. Ethereum made a major change in their supply dynamics. So it should reprice. So is this the beginning of that? And I think a very significant breakout or level to watch would be here. Because this right now is just another higher low or lower high, in a series of lower highs. And it's not a perfect science, right? We had a lower high here, then we made a slightly higher one. And looking back, you're like, hey, it was just a lower one. But I'll be watching this level. And in general, like if this is your daily, I don't know. If I look purely at this chart, I think ETH's going higher versus Bitcoin. And so the question is, what is Bitcoin doing? Right now, I'm still bearish on it. I think we can get cheaper prices. I think I don't mind buying it back higher to take a look at that. And where is the Bitcoin chart I had? So, like this is the way I'm looking at it right now. So we've had this chop zone kind of under resistance pretty much. And then today's move was just really like stabbing up into that, which I think I tweeted something to that effect, kind of like looking to add or looking to get short against like squeezes up, because it just seemed unlikely. I mean, the market's not that bearish. So it seemed unlikely that we would just like, what was it? I think it was, the daily printed that, and then broke the midpoint. So kind of like a fresh M to work with. And typically when that triggers, rather than trading it as a breakdown or a breakout inversely, I would rather be like shorting the short reload zone after that event. And so that's what I did today. And we'll just, it's a bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see how it plays out. But the risk reward, as I see it, obviously you could say, risking against these lows to some whole new leg. There's some great risk reward there if you have the stones to take that kind of wide position. And it works the same way going the other way. Pretty tight risk up against these highs, potential to really test the conviction of market participants over the next few months. Debt ceiling talk, are they going to default on their debt? Probably not. Are they going to raise the ceiling? And then how does that affect liquidity in the market? I've been told by people that I defer to on this kind of thing that it would dry up liquidity, a lot of bond buying, blah, blah, blah. I don't really know, but not super bullish. Now, I guess there's a little birdie on my shoulder that's like, but dude, that's bullish for Bitcoin because it means, more printing, blah, 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 maybe. But purely technically and seasonally, I just think we've had a really nice year. And we kind of came in here on bear divs, and we've now broken down and printed bearish structure. We've got a tinier bear structure here. And it would be too fucking typical for the market to just do whatever it's going to do to get down to levels like this, and then move through the trend line. And then it's, the year of the bull begins next year sometime. This is actually just like September. So, that's generally how I'm positioned right now mentally. And I'm in that sense, I'm about 50% cash. And so at the very least, I want to at least have a short position on that like covers the other 50%. It would be nice to make money if we have a big nasty nuke, but at the very least, I don't want to be losing money. And I'm more comfortable with that versus like saying super long at this kind of level. Because as I said before, if we do break out and I'm like, oh, you're wrong, then there's going to be a chance at some point at some level to build a long position against a pretty sweet invalidation of whatever that new structure is. and then catch the meat of whatever move might come next. Does that make sense? It's kind of how I'm thinking about it. Yeah, CFX chain is worth looking into, Kingsley David. I agree. Thank you for that. This is actually one that I was shorting back when things were not that bearish. And I closed it. I closed my orders before they filled as it was like skyrocketing up. I was like, damn. And so I chickened out, and it was super disappointing. I blame Circa still to this day, but he was laughing at me. He's like, yeah, good luck shorting that. And I was like, no, you're right. And I closed it. But I'm an adult. I make my own decisions. I like to tease him. He was 5% responsible, but I had shorts with an invalidation at like 45 cents. And I think it traded to like 44.77. So a bit of a pain point. And my thinking was like, even if the market does really well this year, this thing kind of already had a full cycle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I was picturing like an A, B, C, which we've kind of now had. So yeah, if we do kind of get into a run here and China perks up, there's some pretty sweet structure you can find on here. It already looks like a little bit inverse head and shouldery. We'll see. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not too excited to take a bunch of risk this year in this market from these levels. I think that's the net thing. Now let's look at what I am taking risk on. We've talked a lot about how I'm trying to trade the chop. I guess, okay, here's the last thing I'll say on that, because I was pointing this out this morning. Betting on continuation of what you're already seeing. So we are in this chop zone, right? And so my thinking last night, and this could be Bitcoin, this could be ETH, whatever, is like taking this short here is betting on two things happening. Continuation of this chop, which would mean, down to here, whatever, and then, okay, close half, stop to break even, lock in some profit, get a look at the potential downside. Or that we actually do just nuke down, and in which case both of those options, a short against this level with invalidation makes sense. More so on Bitcoin than ETH, as it turns out, because Bitcoin or ETH BTC looks so bloody good. However, if wrong, wrong small. If right, right medium, or right big. And that's really how I want to position myself for these chop things. So in other words, through this, my main focus was shorts, because higher time frame, I'm seeing the downtrend. Looking at the trend master, the last trend break candle was down, then it accelerated, then just moved per sideways. So betting on continuation of trend, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, is a higher probability bet than betting on trend reversals before you see them. Trend is your friend kind of stuff, right? So all through this, taking shorts here and betting on the reversal was kind of silly. It ended up costing you money. And then eventually it's right. So why bet against the trend is really what I've come to peace with in my trading. So in ETH's case, I think I actually had a chart up sometime over the weekend where it was like here, and it was like optimal short zone. And I was worried that if I got beaten up on the way up there, that I wouldn't have the gall or the interest in taking that short with this ABCD. That may be happening right before our eyes. If we get up into here, I've got one more slug available, and I'm happy to take that risk. Otherwise, ETH is just not the one for me. It looks really strong versus Bitcoin. I think, that kind of gives it potential to be an accelerated down move if it dumped versus Bitcoin while Bitcoin puked. There's that. But it's just generally the stronger coin of the two. So there's something to be said about not fading that. So for now, I've just got a decently small little short on Bitcoin here. It's actually retesting the Monday highs right now. So, Circa and I have been talking a lot about this in the pit and on the show and in the actual pit, which you can join, by the way, if you click the link in the description. Haha. Don't forget to like the video and all that fun stuff. Whoa. RT just turned into a YouTuber. Retesting the Monday range high, dropping back in here would trigger the setup that we've been focused on over the last little bit that's been smacking. So keep an eye on that. That was kind of my thinking, like ETH, a little bit trickier to get short against with any kind of invalidation because of this insane wick, which really in retrospect is looking like a short squeeze. But it was a short squeeze no matter how you shake it. But if it totally dumps now, then you could say it was just a short squeeze, not like a big, oh my God, it's a bull market. But breaking back inside of Monday's range. So here's Monday's high, Monday's low, Monday's open, close, pretty tight. I would say my guess is we break back in here and spend the week in there. And this, but who knows? So this is actually a decent spot for a scalper to think long. I'm not interested in it at all. But if we break back inside here, maybe even retest it, I might add a little bit to the short just as like a teleport to the other side kind of thing at some point. So, yeah, we'll see. The only short I have left on right now is the Bitcoin one, which again, kind of missing my frac short because on the higher time frame, it still just looks great, right? Break back into the range, even sweep the range and go. So I'm going to miss that one if it does do the thing. But, so GND is one that I'm interested in. And it's a pain point for me because I found out about it at around 320. I picked some up. I sold some, picked some up again, sold some. Small profits each time. So the way I just described it, it looked like I was buying highs, selling lows, but it was more like I was buying dips and then like selling the start of the next dip. I don't know why I couldn't just hold conviction on this one. I guess I just am too greedy and I really like the reload zone stuff. So at some point, like I just want to get in there and pick it up, when everyone doesn't like it anymore. But the revenue on this is such that it should be repriced a little higher. That was our thesis, and so far it's playing out. Now GND has a cousin, GMD. Believe it's different teams, but both are anonymous, so it could be the same teams. You don't really know. Started to break out today. This is one that I was like, okay, you know what? I feel like I've missed GND now. I got myself chopped out of it. So I'm going to go scoop up a big bag of GMD at around 99 to $100. I forget exactly when I did that, but my entry, I think it was probably here. Anyways, I got out of that too at break even. I think I lost like $100 just getting in and out. It's breaking out today. So, there's a chance that this one can catch 2x, which is all I want to see. Because going back to the strategy I talked about last week, I'm really focusing less size-wise, at least, on perps, and really trying to just build positions in coins that are like new and flashy and cool and have revenues and all this stuff. Because if I can bang out a double on those and get a free position and then just hold it into next year and then just keep farming out that dry powder into new ideas and run a bit of a little lady, but let that next tranche run. So, throw in a bag here. I'll show you which one that's working on. So the other thing is like, I'm so bullish on this space. So as a trader, it's super uncomfortable for me to be thinking short all the time. And so the fact that I'm sitting here being kind of bearish on the summer, recognizing that it could be wrong, and then it would be more painful to miss the upside than to catch the downside or miss the downside. The way that I was hedging that, rather than like buy a bunch of spot ETH or something, because those are going to move up 5%, 10%, is start to build positions in some of these newer, smaller cap coins that look really promising out the gate. So we've been doing lots of research on those. This is one I mentioned in the pit the other day, maybe before this breakout. I don't remember exactly. I think it was right after I bought it. So like kind of down here. But just if I build positions in some of these coins with some of my cash, and then I'm wrong and, everything goes, oh my God, it's a whole new leg. And then, I think I can make up for a lot of that missed upside on something like core positions on Bitcoin and ETH with some of these like smaller, higher beta plays. So that's the ones I've been looking at. Maple is one that I thought was interesting. Pretty low liquidity. Picked some up in like the mid fives, I think. Low sixes. I don't remember. But at the same time, I picked up picked up some Maple. GMD up 16% from where I sold it. So not loving just aping into this candle here today right now, but certainly has like this look that it could be ready to move. And zooming out, you could just say this is a really clean consolidation. So I'd probably look for a chaos level or a 2x. That's like a 3.5x. That's pretty aggressive, but they come in a lot, as you guys know. So if this big consolidation eventually breaks and trends up, that would certainly be an area I'd be thinking of paying myself. But there's a ton of names out there like this, guys. There's so many. I think Small Cap put out a video that he was kind of building up a lot before. That was actually on our radar before, as it turns out. But we didn't have a bag. What is it? Gassed? So that was like a moment where we're like, oh, sick. It was actually already on our radar, but it's not a buy. I don't know. we'll say it's not a buy. It's not a buy for me necessarily, but I don't know. Maybe that's premature. It's only 4 days old. Tons of volume, 10 million cap. Maybe it is pretty sweet. So the question is, like, with this strategy, I'm not too worried about the chop. First of all, I'm going to put in an amount that I can say goodbye to completely. Like, there's no stop loss. There's no like, oh, I mean, if like the devs are like, we're leaving the project, and then I can still get 40% of my position back or something, like, something like that. But generally speaking, it's like a ride it to zero or a double as a position. So if I think this thing can run to 20 mil market cap in the next 4 months, then, buying it here, buying it there doesn't really matter. Right now, it is just trending up since launch. Small cap, smart guy. He put out a little video on it. He really likes it. I think I should probably watch that video. I'm just talking about it as if I watched it, but I didn't. So I'd like to learn a bit about it. But yeah, it could be the case that there's something here. The reason I'm playing in the mud over here rather than, like if I'm like high time frame bearish crypto or just like kind of midterm bored by it and thinking it's going to just suck for the summer, there's still some juice, right? There's still going to be a lot of alts that move, and I'm focusing on those more like on-chain, newer, smaller, gemmy ones that I think I could probably catch some really nice upside in. So putting in small amounts of my overall cash position could generate outsized returns in the period of time that I'm otherwise waiting for the whole market to just kind of cool off or move through those high time frame downtrend lines as we talked about. LBR is another interesting one. I picked some up, unlike me, to typically buy the local highs. But as this candle came in, Jedi in the pit was talking about it, and I noticed that it had the highest volume yet, which is rarely the high, right? The high often comes in when a high comes in on lower volume, like we just got. Oh my God. So, but this is a bang out of double, wait and see. So I bought it around $1. If it gets to, it hit $2. So I already missed my double on that one. Goddamn, on-chain doesn't have orders. Wow, that was fast. I didn't realize it hit a double already. Now I'm butthurt. So I should have a free position on LBR. I wonder if I could have set a limit order on cow swap. Is that a thing for this? Like any coin you want? Should probably do that. God damn it. Anyways, it just tapped it. I don't even know if the limit would have filled on chain, but therein lies the risk of this particular strategy. That's funny. I can't believe it already did a double. I was not paying attention to that. I was like, I thought like it mentally it doubles up here. So let it be known, children, you must set your orders ahead of time and at least have alerts. Not too worried about it. It's a pretty small slug. All I was thinking the whole way up was like, man, should have bought double. So I'll sell half in a double if and when it gets to $2 again. And if it does come back, this one I could actually add to because didn't buy a whole bunch, just a little bit, just a tip. So yeah, let's talk YOLO. Kate in the chat. YOLO is taking fire this week. I mean, this is a pretty sweet looking chart for a meme coin. Basically came out absolutely zero marketing. I think they threw like $100 in the LP. It looked like with like all the supply of the token. So it was like insanely volatile early on. $100 kind of moves like 6% on price. And it's just been kind of like chugging along. And so we talked about it recently on a network effect episode that we recorded today that's going to be coming out on Thursday. So keep an eye out for that. But basically, it's just like a chat. It's a /command chat bot that sits in Discords, can be installed in any Discord. There's something like 100 million plus daily active users on Discord. So there's a bit of a market fit there, or at least like, potential users. And what it does is you can play YOLO NOLO, which is essentially Moonrect, similar to the Iconic product, but it still plugs into Hxro Network's liquidity. And so you are long or short or, bull or bear on the next 5-minute Bitcoin candle. And now they've just added new functionality into, you can buy Hxro, you can buy Solana. You just type in like /YOLO or /FOMO Solana or something, and it'll buy it to you directly from Discord. So the tooling is crazy. The coin is a total meme coin. I don't know what it does. I have a position, full disclosure. I bought it before this, I bought it well back early on because I was like, yo, meme coin, Hxro Network, let's go. But this thing's not dead. That's basically the bar I have for meme coins after a week of buying them. So I'm excited about it. What is it? I'm just holding it. I don't really have any sell plan. It's not like I don't really have like an exit strategy right now. It's just kind of new. So I'm like gonna roll with it. But what's the market cap? Where it's up here, 1.8 mil. Unless I have to refresh, might be different. 2.1 mil up here. So big for a meme coin, small for a meme coin. Like it's really hard to value these things. I'm not good at meme coining. Full disclosure, and all I've got on my chart is this crazy chaos. So if it like blasts into outer space, I'd probably take back what I put into it. For now, I'm just kind of rolling with it. It's a cool product. I have high hopes for it spreading through the Discord lore over time. I know Blockmates has already installed it in their Discord. There's going to be some other crypto savvy ones, I'm sure, will install it in their Discords, and then we'll see. And we'll see if that ever really drives. Like what does the coin do? I don't know. I think that's way too mid-curve of a question for me to ask. That's usually why I just don't win when it comes to meme coins, because I ask questions like, "What's the utility?" In this case, I'm just going to have some fun with it. It's very memeable. I got to say, their Twitter is on point. They are like, Jim Cramer says, "Don't buy YOLO," like showing tweets. Like they're pretty funny. So they're doing great stuff, and they've added some new tooling very recently for buying other coins. So it's like turning Discords into a DEX, which is kind of crazy. Kind of crazy cool. Yeah, Bitcoin, I don't know. I'm certainly not like, hey, look, we have a green candle. We're back in a bull. ETH looks way better. ETH does look like maybe it just broke out and we're going to rally. Bitcoin looks heavy. Looks heavy at the underside of this resistance. So I'm not too excited about the market, but I'm getting excited about some of these smaller cap coins. Gas, probably not one I would buy post video pump. That's like a terrible way to be in the market. It's much better to take note of the video, say, hey, somebody who's smart, who I know and like, is bullish on this thing. So I should take note of that. And then when it's a good trade, I'll get some. Not like, hey, I'm just going to go arbitrarily ape into this thing FOMO as soon as I hear about it. It's usually not a good thing. In fact, videos and posts like that usually mark tops locally. So I'm going to keep an eye on this one at the risk of totally missing out on the biggest rally in the history of the world. Nah, just kidding. Super dramatic. But isn't that what the little part of your brain sometimes likes to tell you? It's like, if I don't get it now, I might not ever get rich. Much better to sit into levels, follow plans, and just kind of chill and wait for it. I think I can get this reload zone. If I don't, I don't. And if I do, I might get nuked anyways. You never know. That's the exciting part. That's why other people that don't trade call us gamblers. Anyways, so this reload zone gets interesting for me on Ghastly or whatever it's called. Yeah. I think if we go look, I got an interest level on ETH. ETH looks really strong, dude. Don't get it twisted, bro. I don't love shorting here. I think I should probably zoom out in Ethereum's case, just because of I am fairly certain it needs to reprice aggressively versus Bitcoin. And if that's what we're about to see, I'd be stupid to not be on side with that, because it's my own bloody thesis. Not like I'm the only one that thinks that, but you know what I mean? That's like my base case, is that ETH should really heat up versus Bitcoin. A lot of this I can get rid of now. This is probably a safer view. There's definitely a trade that I was waiting on in a window like this, kind of like, because it was pretty crazy. Like we were just like lower high, 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 lower high. So like there was this insane amount of liquidity being built up, people shorting against each of these highs in one place or another, right? And then the high right here. So it's not surprising to me to see that kind of reaction to the breakout. Like it was like a domino effect of just like stop runs. And so therefore it's hard to trust this move. It looks really good and I don't really want to short it, but that doesn't mean it's not a good time to do it. So I'm at a bit of a crossroads with Ethereum right now. I think for now I'm not short on it, and I own a bag. It's my biggest position spot wise that I have remaining after cash, but I'm not holding any Bitcoin. I'm not interested in Bitcoin. If I'm holding one or two of these as a core position, it's definitely Ethereum, midterm, long term. Maybe until the halvening. Might see a flip back for me then, but yeah, I don't know. I think this is an area where, like, let's have some fun. There's an alt season, whatever. If we do that, then I might come in and like, there's a few reasons why that area becomes interesting from a wiki downtrend line perspective. Well, it's actually not going to make it if it plays with this downtrend. But yeah, I don't know. I guess low time frame, if I wanted to short ETH, and I don't right this minute, I'm focused more on coins that look a lot more bearish, like Bitcoin and Frax and whatever. But this is arguably a range. And you can see that range a little bit more clearly here. There's your range EQ, and you can see how cute the touches were as it came through. Let's get rid of these ugly diagonals before Circa calls the police. So you've got this kind of like, okay, range low, came up, range high, and now we're going to play in there, and you get some range EQ interactions, reload zones. And so we're just resting on top of that. And so if I was super bullish, I would think long against that high. If the market was super bullish, it would probably touch and go. I'm not buying it that like you get 3 chances to load up here and it's a great long. I think we puke back inside of this range, and I think we go back to Chop City. And from that, if we ended up breaking out of this range to the downside, that's kind of why I'm still even on here talking about shorts today, because the potential is much better. Given the year, given the time of the year, given all the stuff we're seeing, given the full-blown attack from the US government on this DOJ, everything exchanges, like it's not to say we're going to die, but the energy to me is all flowing in one direction right now, which is like, we had a great year. We're going to trend down for a little while. We're going to shake out. We're going to get to high time frame reload zones. And down there, I'll be ready. And on Bitcoin, that looks something like this, these kinds of things. And that'd be totally fucking normal. There would be nothing catastrophic about that. But if you hold through and you're long in the whole way down, my God, you're going to feel like, shit, I've been there. So either that happens, or this was the lowest we're ever going to get again, and we blast higher, and I find a long setup somewhere down the line. Not bothered by that scenario. It would be uncomfortable and unfortunate, but it would not be, game over. So if you like anxiety, you should go to the 5-minute chart and watch the Agger. And if you really like anxiety, you should turn the audio on. I have determined in very short amount of time that actually just makes me a way worse trader. So I don't ever put the audio on, and I usually just keep this on like another screen that it's not my main screen. Yeah, YOLO powered by Hxro. Kuji, please, zero kind sir. Please, oh kind sir. Oh, okay, let's take a look at Kuji. Very low liquidity, dude. Not sure I want to talk too much about sub 100K liquidity coins, but the chart looks good. Oh, look, we already had a line on it. So I guess you've mentioned this before. Super low liquidity, dude. So I can't even like buy this thing. I think $500 would probably move this thing up 10%. But yeah, I mean, this chart looks very good. This is the exact opposite of what Bitcoin looks like right now. So whereas Bitcoin had a great year and then put in an M top and failed and is now retesting that, this one had its Gartner hype cycle, came down, made a low, came down, made a low, and it's actually testing a higher time frame breakout. Now at $86,000 of liquidity, it's not interesting to me, and it's a risky buy for anybody. As I learned with ICE in 2021, if you buy too big a position in too small a liquid coin, you get stuck in it forever and you lose all your money. So just be aware of that. But if your portfolio and your size you're playing with, whatever, to have a market cap of 100 million and liquidity of 86,000, maybe there's liquidity somewhere else. I don't want to just shit on it because, yeah, built on top of Atom. Yeah, no, I mean, dude, this chart looks fantastic. And it tells me that the market wants to move higher on this coin. But at 100 mil FDV and 86,000 liquidity, it's fishy. Maybe there's more liquidity somewhere else I don't know about. Full stack creative, it recognizes his faults, and I appreciate that. I just noticed that in the chat. What's up, bro? Anyways, no. I'm an adult human who controls his hand, and I click close on my idea. In a moment of weakness, I succumb to the pressure I put upon myself. So we're at range highs on ETH. The risk reward is actually kind of good in both directions. It'd be kind of cool to long and short, and then let that play out. But I'm still leaning short. This just looks like a fat short squeeze, and how big it was makes a lot of sense given how many of those highs were there. And yet, I would not be shocked at all if we just get right up into here, and then, and then that is either a new bull market or more likely the short. I don't know. I can't get my head around a bullish summer. Could be wrong. The good news is we'll probably have a shit September, and if not, a shitty tax selling season. Like, there will be dips. The daily will be oversold on the RSI at some point before everything makes new all-time highs. Of that, I'd say there's an 80% probability. And it's in that moment, at whatever price it is, oversold on the daily, that I would be keen to repurchase positions. In the meantime, I'm going to keep playing in the mud. I think my favorite coin in that regard right now, for me, not at this level for anyone else, is Hxro, because I picked some up and it's moving. I didn't quite get my double, but now that I realize what I'm saying, I don't even have my limit order set. I should try that on cow swap on this one, because I already fucked that up with LBR. Looks like I did get the double and didn't sell half, so that's too bad. Anyways, look at the NASDAQ. Major resistance, rejected. Look at the ES mini futures. Breakout on bear divs, rejected. The market's not going to like this debt ceiling thing. It's been weird to me that it's rallying into it, but not so weird, because that's the kind of bullshit you see in the markets, right? Irrationality into an event. If they default, bad. If they raise the debt ceiling, apparently bad. And so I'm not going to let this move up change my mind about what that outcome would look like. In fact, it's setting up for a really sweet trade. It's like, it'd be a shame if we got to a thing where we're thinking, well, there's a major thing happening and both outcomes are bearish. Oh, but it's already at the lows. It's not a good trade. This is actually setting up to be a sick trade. Now, I don't trade the NASDAQ. I don't trade these. I could probably sneak in and buy some puts or something. I don't know. I've never really done that. Should do that. I should buy some like 3-6 month puts or some shit. But here's what we like to call a deviation, right? Get above a key level into, I think this is a weekly resistance. That's why it's on there. Yeah. Sort of like back here, a little support, a little breakdown. I don't know. It's pretty loose. It's not a very pretty level, but it's there, and we just hit it, and we're back below. So don't be shocked. At the very least, whatever comes next. Well, I'm leaning strong bear, like still 80%. But don't be shocked if we look back at this sometime during the summer and go like, damn, it was all good just a week ago, because it doesn't look good. And we're coming into an event that seems like it's got to be bad. So I'm either mid-curving it and we just go into a further irrational bull, like, any of this kind of talk through all of this was just totally met with upside. Or, we're kind of heading into more of like a washing machine cycle across the board, whatever that looks like. I'm not saying like new lows anywhere. Bitcoin, ETH, like that's certainly not what I'm calling for. But cool your tits. That's basically what I'm saying. Is my vibe. So if we break back down in here, I think there's a sweet short setting up. I don't know how I would frame it. I don't like that kind of short, but it's there. And it's already kind of dropping back in, which is sweet, because that's the one I shorted. Just because it was much easier to frame, right? Bitcoin really had no significant move yesterday. Like, it was just a move into a short reload zone of a downtrend line. Like, so, and I think lastly, we should look at Bitcoin on this chart, because this is the chart where I have the Mondays. This would be kind of cool. I'm really looking at these Monday ranges as a student of the market right now. It's not like some vetted plan I have, but Circa's been posting a lot about it, and I really appreciate the success rate, even last week, just through this range. Now this is super tight, so it's pretty boring. It's like $100. But last week, anytime price moved into the open and close range, it crossed it almost every time, and then traded below it for a bit, and then it's like, oh, we're back in, and it's probably gonna go teleport, and it did. So there's a cool little scalp trade there. It's a very tight range this week. The highs just got retested. There's definitely thinking like long there, from some views. But based on everything I said today, you beat the horse dead. I'm thinking short against these highs. And I'm not sure, we get down into this, we can discuss, do I want to hedge out my short? If I can get short against these highs and then puking into these lows, I can start thinking about taking longs in the other direction and then live in this range. And then if it breaks down, I get a position that I'm already in. If it breaks higher, that gets stopped out. I'm already in a long. So that's kind of how I want to strangle this. If any longing on the majors, that's it. Otherwise, I'm actually at the price where I puked out of my Frax shorts yesterday. I saw this happen, and I saw ETH rallying, and I got scared, and I closed my short, and then I felt like a king, and now I feel silly. But I'm really right where I exited, so I could theoretically get back in right now. I might. Because on the high time frame, this just looks like a pretty clean setup. Get rid of it. There it is. Okay. Yeah, it looks like a really clean setup. And I like those. Accumulation range, breakout, fail, bounce, fail, drop back inside, retest, sweep, and dunk. So I would be more comfortable getting back into a small position, pretty much where I got out yesterday, at the very least, rather than like missing what is ultimately like a multi-week trade, just because of like a little bit of fear on ETH's breakout last night. So if I turn up in the bear pit with a frac short in the near future, don't be too surprised. I think that's all I've got to say for today, which is great news because we're at the top of the hour. Yeah. So I think high level, don't get me wrong, super bullish on the space. Nothing's changed. I always feel like I need to add this disclaimer, so I'm not one of those like, I'm a bear. But as a trader, we're in Chop City. Nothing's changed. Ethereum is the only one that made a significant breakout today that I'm like, oh, that's a little uncomfortable. But the squeeze makes sense. And as a trader, I only see good risk reward right now on the coins that I'm looking at anyways, on shorts. Now, there's a lot of coins that I do find really bullish, and those are the ones on chain that I talked about. They're not perp charts, and they're the kind of bang out half, sell half on a double. So I'm still looking at those. And the nice thing is I can trade this chop. If I catch the breakdown, great, 50 to 1 risk reward, probably something like that, 25 to 1. And then if it's wrong and it's like, we chop, and then we blast higher, I'm building these positions in some of these smaller, newer coins. That's kind of how I cope with myself being a bear right now. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I've never traded Grail. I like it. I heard it's cool. I missed it a couple times and then just gave up on it. But I did see that it was cooking with grease the other day. So maybe it's time for me to start building a position there. Again, anything I do on chain, I'm trying to bang out halves and doubles, and I already missed LBR. Got to learn how to do limit orders on chain. So with that, I'm off to learn how to do limit orders on chain. And whatever you do from now until Thursday, always play from a position of strength. Thanks for watching.